Trump is acquitted as he survives a second impeachment, Gina Carano refuses to be cancelled by Hollywood, and the Australian media is nuked off of Facebook. This is The Arc, without Ricardo Bossi. Okay, I am wearing a black tie today, guys, because my grandmother unfortunately passed away at about 10:40 last night. On the good side of things, my sister gave birth to a newborn baby girl. Another reason to fight for our country. Now, as I said, this is The Arc without Ricardo Bossi. Unfortunately, Ricardo couldn't be here to film today, and that'll be explained in a couple of days or so. But the show must go on. We have a lot of things going on. We have this march happening tomorrow, Saturday the 20th of February, against what I have to refer to as vacations, if you know what I mean. Otherwise, YouTube will take me off of this platform. I want to get the message out to you guys. I want to get it out because in order to spread the word, we need to make sure we work together, like this video so it gets spread through the algorithms, and share this video on other platforms so that we can actually share the good news. Now, the first topic I sort of wanted to touch on is what's going on in America. As I said, the Democrats are on the back foot. There was a great week this week, and Donald Trump Jr. really summed it up in this tweet. Trump beats impeachment, Dems in disarray, and the Lincoln Project burned to the ground. The rhinos in the GOP establishment are exposed and collapsing. Cuomo and the Dem govs are in freefall, and the media are depressed and lashing out at Dems for their impeachment fail. Maga ascending. And that's totally the truth. I mean, it's really good to see that Donald Trump is not being fully impeached by the Senate. The vote was 57-43. Of course, you need 2/3 majority in the Senate in order to impeach a president, even though he's not even in office right now, which is stupid. But this is really good news because that means, as you know, Trump can run again in 2024, and I think he can and will, and he will win. Don Jr. mentioned that the GOP Republicans, the do-nothing Republicans, have also seen a significant decrease in their traction. Donald Trump, according to the polling, and I think this is internal polling, so we can trust this, Donald Trump is, his favorability among Republicans is at +75. Mitch McConnell's underwater at -15. That's pretty damn bad, and here's a great image to sort of represent that. I think that photo was taken at Trump's most recent speech, the Union speech. State of the Union, and there is the current majority leader, I can't even remember his name, where Trump's sort of in a doctored photo is holding up the newspaper Acquitted. Now, I want to touch on this topic of Gina Carano. Gina Carano is sort of a person that has seriously been put through the fire this last week or so. As you know, many of you know, if you have Disney Plus or watched The Mandalorian, Gina Carano is an actor who was cancelled by Disney. Why? Well, this week, she ended up putting a post out, I think it was actually this week or last week, a post out which basically read this on her Instagram or Facebook. She said, Jews were beaten in the streets not by Nazi soldiers, but by their neighbours, even by children. Because history is edited, most people today don't realise that to get to the point where the Nazi soldiers could easily round up thousands of Jews, the government first made their own neighbours hate them, simply for being Jews. How is that any different from hating someone for their political views? Now, what's she pointing out here? She's pointing out that don't demonise people, otherwise we might fall into the same trap that the Nazis did, because people had to first be demonized even to their neighbors before the Nazis were able to round them up. So because, like neighbors were telling people where the Jews were actually living. Now, Gina Carano, this isn't the first time she's sort of run into this situation, because so now off that last message, Gina Carano was cancelled and she lost her job off Disney and will not star in any future shows, even though there's one show which is based around her and her character. But this isn't the first time she's sort of run into controversy. I think it was about last year, she ended up being challenged by a lot of the woke mob on Twitter. And they were saying, Gina, why don't you put your pronouns in your bio? We need to know your pronouns. And she's like, okay, if you oblige. And then she put beep, bop, boop into her bio. And this obviously triggered a lot of people and it brought a lot of heat onto her. Another tweet that she put out, which we agree on, and I've got to be careful how I phrase this, otherwise Twitter might take me down. I might not be able to read it all. She basically said we need to clean up the election process, and then she started to lay out ways of doing that. Remember, I cannot say some of these things, otherwise I will be taken off the platform. Go to Rumble if you want to see the rest of the conversation there. So in response to this, Gina basically said they can't cancel us if we don't let them. And the Daily Wire swooped in and basically called Gina and offered her a position to produce and star in her own upcoming film for the Daily Wire. Now, what is this? What is this basically? Well, the concept is that the reason why conservatives are losing the fight for their nations is basically because they tend to stay out of the culture. They tend to stay out of the media. They tend to stay out of movies and sort of the institutions, those that make the rules of how to teach their kids. Well, the Daily Wire is trying to make inroads into the culture wars. How? They're creating movies, and they made one very recently called Run, Hide, Fight. Now, the Daily Wire started, basically swooped in and said, Gina, do you want to produce a movie? We don't want to see you cancelled by Hollywood or woke Hollywood, who Ricardo has often pointed out as being funded by a lot of Chinese money. Now, this is excellent news. This is really good news. I would encourage everyone that has a Disney Plus account, including myself, cancel your Disney Plus account and go subscribe to the Daily Wire. I think it's about like $70 or $60 a year. And why? Because that's what funds these movies. That's what allows them to fight back. If you don't subscribe to them, just similarly with this show, if you don't subscribe to this show and sort of support financially, the shows disappear. That's just what happens. And the intestinal fortitude of the Daily Wire cannot be understated in this. This is a very bold venture. These aren't things that are cheap to develop. They cost tens of millions of dollars. And the fact that this is happening is incredibly exciting because I think it can be really successful to make quality movies again. The other thing is, if you subscribe to the Daily Wire, you will also go and see that they are doing a conversation called a Sunday Special this Sunday, where Ben Shapiro is sitting down with Gina Carano, and they're actually going to be discussing this topic, which is really exciting because, I mean, what it shows is it shows that you can discuss a topic together and you can actually show that you're fighting back. And Gina's been doing that legendarily. And the thing with Gina is she's a real feminist. I mean, feminists, they tell us we want strong women. We want women that can, really throw a punch. And we want women that, are empowered and independent. And then you get Gina Carano come along. She's an MMA fighter. She is very, relatively masculine in these movies. And they're like, oh, no, we can't have any of that. That's not acceptable. It's enraging. It's disgusting. And I'm really encouraged to see that Gina and a lot of people are getting behind Gina. In fact, Cancel Disney was trending #1 on the day I think it happened. It's great to see the Daily Wire throwing a punch. And the people, this seems like it's what the people want. A lot of people, even in the Star Wars community, have been very shocked by the cancelling of Gina. Let's move to the next topic. Talk radio legend Rush Limbaugh has recently died of cancer, unfortunately. Now, the importance of Rush Limbaugh cannot be understated. He basically pioneered, he broke ground on the podcasting services, on radio talk show hosting. Now, Rush was really imperative in that, and I wouldn't be here doing what I'm doing if it wasn't for Rush. I mean, he really broke ground in this area. And his contribution cannot be understated. In fact, I think he raised over $27 million over the course of his radio show for the same cancer that he's actually fighting now, which is really great to sort of fund the research for that. Unfortunately, we sort of saw the true colours of people here. We saw Hollywood celebrating Rush Limbaugh's death, which is disgusting. I mean, they ended up saying stuff like cancer killed the cancer. This is a man that made a significant contribution to the country. When Ruth Bader Ginsburg died in, I think, October last year, we even saw Trump's reaction to it. He got it live on camera, and he hadn't heard it, and they broke the news to him, and he said, look, she was a brilliant lady, she lived a great life. He didn't say, good riddance to her. He didn't say that. He said she lived a lovely life. She was a true feminist, one that pioneered sort of the inroads into the judicial system, and she really made it easier for other women to enter the system. Like that, why can't we do that now? Rules for thee, but not for me. Maybe that's why. The next topic has been really topical the last few days. It's been the fact that Facebook has deplatformed Australia. Now, it's a very shocking incident that's actually made international news. This isn't a topic I don't have all the answers on, guys, and I don't, I don't have a solid position on it yet. This article was written by Cauldron Pool, Evelyn Ray, which has been really good in educating the world on what's really been going on. Evelyn Ray's really a phenomenal journalist, guys. I definitely, and writer, I definitely get behind her and follow her on her social media. She wrote this article about Facebook basically getting rid of all social media, and this includes things such as emergency services for government content, all Australian news content, local news, international. It can't be shared internationally either. Why is this happening? Well, as you may have heard, it's due to the News, Media and Digital Platforms Mandatory Bargaining Code Bill of 2020, which would force Facebook to pay news organisations for content that publishers voluntarily place on their platform. What does this mean, basically? Well, this legislation has been put forward because a lot of news organisations, they don't feel like they're being paid their fair share of the news they put on Facebook. Recently, the Murdoch Media and a number of other media organisations, I think Channel 7 as well, they reached a deal with Google, who had a similar problem, and they're sort of in negotiations, and they came to a solution on that. But with Facebook, they're really digging their heels on this, guys, and they're really flexing their muscles right now by banning on all of this and showing they can do it. In fact, even our friend Monica Smit over at Reignite Democracy, that page was also banned, which is great because it sort of means that she's a journalist, so they recognise that, and so I don't know why police would arrest her, but it's sad because she's also getting caught up in this net. What does this code do? Well, basically, the argument from these media organisations is that when we share news to your channels, when we share news to Facebook at this platform, and we give you content to go on there to sort of channel people on, we should be getting paid for that, and we're not getting paid for it. So what are you doing? Basically, that's what they're saying. And this is an issue where I don't know whose side to take, because I don't know if people like Monica Smith are going to be paid for their work. The prices that are derived aren't even derived by sort of the market. They're sort of done by a government institution. I think the ACCC, I'm not sure. Maybe check me on that. But it's really concerning, and but it's also really funny. I mean, if you go to the comments from federal MP George Christensen, as seen in Evelyn Ray's article on Cauldron Pool, he basically said, "I don't like the censorship, but now that the news media has a taste of what it's like to be deplatformed, they might fight for online speech for conservatives a little bit more." And then he said, "I won't hold my breath, though." The double standard. Besides, he basically also said that if Australia folds in response to Facebook's demands, the message will be pretty clear. A big tech company holds more influence than a sovereign government with the world's 18th largest GDP. That should scare you. And it should scare you. I mean, we've been warning about this for weeks and months and years. Just on this show, I've grown sick of discussing the topic of censorship because it's so predacious in the culture wars. It's disgusting. So how do you combat that? Well, that's a great question. I don't know whose side to take on this, guys. I really don't. I don't like the fact that the government will be deriving how much these news organisations, a lot of them being fake news, can be paid by another even bigger organisation. I don't like that. Not at all. But I also don't like the fact that Facebook has, as it said, more power than a sovereign government with the 18th biggest GDP globally. I don't know, guys. I don't know. This is going to be very interesting going forward. And what do I think is going to happen? I think Facebook obviously will come to the table again. I think that the government will win on this, unfortunately. But how do you chart a way forward? I'm not sure. I don't have all the answers. I think this will be an insane future that we're going into. All I can see is a big spiral down. Let's move on. What solutions can be put forward for it? I just wanted to point out before we move on, can I just say that it's awfully convenient that Facebook blocked Australian News Today, considering the government was seriously on the back foot with allegations of rape that came up this week. And obviously that I'm referring to a staffer that was allegedly raped by another staffer in a Liberal Party MP's office. Now, I'm not saying it's a conspiracy. I'm just saying it's awfully convenient. It wasn't looking good for the government. It really wasn't. And frankly, if I'm being honest, it was a little bit scary to see exactly what was going on there. Now, what else did we see this week? We saw a federal MP, a Liberal MP, Craig Kelly, booted from Facebook for a week over his COVID-19 posts. A sitting member banned for a week. Can you imagine if they banned him a week out from the election? Can you imagine that? It's disgusting. And on top of that, many of you probably already know, Facebook also deleted Pete Evans' Instagram account. Disgusting. And look who wrote it. The AAP wrote that article. I bet they were very, very happy over there. And as you know, the AAP has targeted both me and Ricardo on this very show. And it's been very frustrating because it's the first instance I've seen, and I can prove, of the AAP targeting this show. And it's been just... Because what do they do with these fact checks, guys? They de-rank our content. They basically tell Facebook, watch out, these people are inciting violence and you need to keep them on the wraps. It's disgusting. It really is. This is the sort of stuff that Facebook bans. This is a Happy Valentine's Day card, which says, you stole my heart like a 2020 election. And Facebook put a little tab at the bottom saying, the claim of election fraud is disputed and the tweet cannot be replied to, retweeted, or liked due to a risk of violence. Can you believe that? It's literally a Valentine's Day card. This is the sort of thing they're censoring. How do you combat this? Well, you move to other platforms. Parler's a good one. Parler's back online after being offline for a month since, I think it was it Twitter? No, it was Amazon. One of Amazon's server hosting services basically said, no, Parler's not taking enough steps to censor their content or moderate it. They don't have the capability to, and they haven't demonstrated the means to, even though they do moderate their content. In fact, way more things were organized on Facebook to start the 6th of January Capitol riots than were done on Parler, significantly more. Where's that? And also, there's a double standard with Black Lives Matter also doing that. So what does that mean? Get onto Parler. We are back. Go follow Ricardo and his tags there. Go follow me and I'm over there. It's awesome that there's so many of you that have already moved there, 2,200 for Ricardo and a little over 500 for me, which is really good. I will be posting more there now that it's back. I will be also going to other platforms. This podcast will have 2 hours. There'll be a second hour, which will be going onto Rumble because I can actually tell you things that are happening on Rumble without the censorship. So if you like what I do here, go to Rumble after that and you'll see the second hour. Now, why am I telling you this? Because I will be on Parler, Ricardo will be on Parler, I'll be on Rumble, I'll also be on a number of other platforms, Gab, Minds, and probably another one. I'm trying to keep it just to 4 or 5, but because I don't want to go to all 18 platforms. But this is the reality. I'm thinking about a Telegram, but I'm not familiar with the platform. But we'll see how we go. But get off these platforms. You need to get off now. Otherwise, you will not find us on any other. It'll be very difficult to find us, basically, unless you're looking. So go do that right now. Follow Ricardo. Follow me. You don't want to be left with your pants down, basically. Drew Pavlo put a solution forward with the news that the Facebook deregulation, the Facebook regulation was coming. So Facebook took all these pages off, and in the wake of this, Drew basically said, I just talked with Bob Katter, and he's going to call for a nationally owned social media network set up under public charter with a public oversight board. Before you dismiss it as crazy, it's blatantly obvious that these are public utilities that are disastrous in private hands. Look, I don't entirely agree with this, but I think there is a possibility that we could find a way through this. I said in response to that, I actually agree on the condition that almost all free speech. What did I say? Hang on a second. Let me rephrase this. I actually agree on this on one condition, that it is almost a free speech absolutist, except inciting violence and doxing, of course. It could work. It could work. I don't know, but it could work. But I think in conjunction with alternative media platforms, we could make this work. I don't want to jump off the mainstream media channels yet, because it's very difficult, and I might be showing my cards here, it's very difficult to spread to alternative media without slowly integrating and migrating and leading an exodus away from the mainstream channels. You have to do this as an integrated thing. You can't go cold turkey. I know many people like Miley Yiannopoulos, I see him anymore, because this is exactly what's happened. But anyway, what would I know? This is kind of disgusting. It's this ad which was in one country, I can't remember which country it was, and it was basically which said, the most loving gift you can give your first child is to not have another. That's a little bit sinister, I think you'd agree. I'm not a fan of this kind of advertising, and if I was, I'd probably be a killer. I don't like this. This was put out by oneplanetonechild.org. This is disgusting. I mean, we should be encouraging people to have kids, to be prosperous, and to have joy. What is this, communist China, one-child policy? It's ridiculous. In the more entertaining news, we had a situation where there was a quarantine exercise, and basically the people were sort of ushered in and out of the building with plastic bags over their heads, which is hilarious because, you know, we joke about how many masks you have, and then the best used mask is actually putting a plastic bag over your head, and that's 100% effective. And then we actually see it. Like, satire is real life. The Babylon Bee is here. It's absolutely entertaining. In other news, in America, so much for defund the police. Minneapolis to spend $6.4 million recruiting more officers following the sharp rise in crime, and up to 200 cops quitting after the George Floyd riots and the $8 million budget cuts. I mean, this is what you get, guys. Often the divide that I say, the divide between the mainstream and what's happening here, is that progressives don't see the long-term impacts of their actions. They need to listen to older people more so they can actually see the long-term impacts of it. I used to be progressive, and that's how I got out of it. I saw that their policies, they felt good at the time, but they don't necessarily do good. And this is sort of what we're starting to see. 2020 saw an unprecedented spike in murders in major US cities, and these are places where the police departments are defunded. In fact, there are over 200 I think counties where the police were defunded, or some crazy number like that, or 2,000 police departments, something along those lines. And you look at places like Seattle, up 74.1% murder spike. New Orleans, 61.7%. Atlanta, 57.9%. And Chicago, of all places, which is it's terrible as it is, it's up 55.5%. This is ridiculous. It's disgusting. On the topic of guns, and it's a shame Ricardo's not here, I really wanted to get his opinion on this. There is an incremental effect that we are seeing in America. They will take your guns. This is something I said when Joe Biden got in. They will take your guns. And right now, this week, mark my words, they are discussing, as I said, they're discussing ways to get rid of and put more restrictions on Americans and their guns. This is the timeline to date. 1934, it's just a tax on machine guns and silencers. 1968, it's just a ban on buying guns through the mail. 1986, it's just a ban on new machine guns. 1989, it's just a ban on importing non-sporting rifles. 1993, it's just a background check when you buy a gun from a dealer. 1994, it's just a common sense temporary ban on extra scary guns. 2014 and 2017, it's just a ban on importing Russian guns. 2021, it's just a common sense permanent ban on the most common guns in America. That's where we're at. And, you know, I don't know in detail as much about Australia's gun history, but one thing for sure is we saw that incrementalism, and it's disgusting. We should have access to this. In fact, guns rights are women's rights, and I'm a bigger feminist than most feminists, most third-wave feminists. They don't want this. I do. because I want people like my sisters to be able to walk safely at night in certain suburbs. Here's another hilarious story, and this isn't satire, this isn't the Babylon Bee. Oregon promotes a program focused on dismantling racism in mathematics. Says finding the right answer a sign of white supremacy. My brother studies actuarial studies, and this is interesting. This is hilarious. Where it's literally 2 + 2 = 5. The reference from 1984. It's disgusting. Like you're gonna collapse bridges if you keep pushing this crap. It's ridiculous. This is a story that ties in really well with what's happening with Dan Andrews. Andrew Cuomo's aide admits that New York hid COVID-19 nursing home deaths to avoid federal investigation. This is disgusting. Before this came out, there were at least 6,000 deaths where they admitted were due to the decisions of the Cuomo administration. The health department there and Cuomo's decisions actually said those with COVID from nursing homes should go back into the nursing homes. And that led to 6,000 more deaths. That's disgusting. Now numbers are coming out that it's probably maybe even higher. Some people have said it's been 11,000 for a few months now, actually. This is troubling. This is not good. And Dan Andrews is also going through a number of irregularities we're seeing, and it's very, very, very troubling. This is hilarious. The Daily Wire reports that Kamala Harris is taking calls with foreign leaders on behalf of Biden. Meanwhile, Joe Biden is on Valentines Day. He's just playing Mario Kart with his granddaughter. It's like, what's going on? What's going on here? It's sort of a running joke that Joe Biden's got to get a taste test for stuff. I really think they've got to be careful. They have to be careful. This is a clip. And by the way, before I continue, for those of you watching on the live stream, you will notice that on this panel over here on the far side, you can actually ask questions and support the show. If you write some super chats, it really helps to support the show. If you want to support on an ongoing basis, please go and subscribe to my Subscribe Star. It goes a huge way. It allows the show to continue, and it's greatly, greatly appreciated. It really helps me do what I do. I'm currently working on buying some cameras. Unfortunately, the cameras I was looking at, the 2 cameras, are out of stock. I can't get them until June, so I'm forced to actually get more expensive ones because I want to do these lives a lot more so you can get multiple angles. And unfortunately, those are like $4,000 a pop, which is ridiculous. I've saved $6,000. I'm saving more money from you guys, but I just wanted to be absolutely transparent with you guys on that point. Your support goes a very, very long way. Thank you very much for those helping so far. And I'm trying to give back as much as I can. So this is a discussion from Joe Biden, basically talking about China. Now, you guys can hear this video, which is excellent. It's very troubling. To my friend Drew Pavlo, I'm sorry that this is how you had to learn this, but this is what Joe Biden actually believes.
You know, Chinese leaders, if you know anything about Chinese history, it has always been the time when China has been victimized by the outer world is when they haven't been unified at home. So the central, vastly overstated, the central principle of Xi Jinping is that there must be a united, tightly controlled China. And he uses his rationale for the things he does based on that. I point out to him, no American president can be sustained as a president if he doesn't reflect the values of the United States. And so the idea, I'm not going to speak out against what he's doing in Hong Kong, what he's doing with the Uyghurs in western mountains of China, and Taiwan trying to end the one China policy by making it forceful. I said, and by the way, he said he gets it. Culturally, there are different norms at each country, and their leaders are expected to follow.
That's astounding. Did you guys get that? What he's basically saying is America has their values. China has their values. Part of America's values may not be compatible with China's values. Therefore, I have no right to tell the Chinese leader on this 2-hour call he had with Xi Jinping recently, I have no right to tell him how to run his own culture. And so he's basically saying the Uyghurs are on their own. This is totally fine. This is normal. And it's disgusting. I tried to warn you, Drew. I really did. I wish Trump did more on this topic. I wish he got another 4 years starting now so that he could actually address this even more. Maybe he was waiting so that he could actually get elected first. But unfortunately, we're in a situation where now Joe Biden is in this situation and he's not going to do anything. I'm sorry, man. I really am. I really am sorry. I wish this wasn't the case. The Uyghurs, all over 1 million of them are being sterilized. They're being, I can't even say the words. There's forced insemination. It's disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting. And I can speak more freely on this topic on Rumble. So go to Rumble, guys. You got to go to Rumble. I'll be slowly moving my stuff across to there. So this is the part where I go to the YouTube Super Chats. If you guys have questions for me, now is the time. I want to take questions from you. They're really helpful. They help support the show. I really appreciate them. Let's see what the first one was. I think we actually had a lot of questions from my Subscribe Star as well. No Super Chats. Okay, cool. No worries. See, this is what ends up happening, guys. This is what ends up happening. If you don't super chat here, I am really thankful because what it means is that the people on Subscribe Star really keep me going. Because I run off donations. So how is the show going to work from now? Well, basically, what I'm going to be doing is because of censorship and my understanding of censorship, I can tell you certain things. I can tell you certain topics. However, I can actually talk about most topics. There's probably about 95% of topics I can actually talk about, and that's where you will find here. However, that 5% of topics are actually some of the most important topics to talk about. I will be putting those all on my Subscribe Star. I really want to put them there because it helps sustain me and what I do on this show. I'm also considering putting it on Rumble as well, which is a free platform. However, they run ads on it. I don't get ads on some other channels. And until I can work out that monetization properly, I can't commit to continuing this show. But give the video a like if you haven't already. It really helps promote the show with the algorithms. Please share it. And I will be I'm about to film a second hour of the show. It'll be going to Rumble and Subscribe Star. Thank you very much, everyone. I've really, really appreciated the support. And I hope I'll see you guys next week. It's been a crazy week. It really has. Especially for me. I've been helping my sister move out, so I've been quite under the pump. As you know, my grandmother passed away last night, which I just shared with you guys. Hence the black tie. My grandmother actually gifted me this pen, and I guess why am I telling you guys about this? It's very important we remember where we came from and the lessons that they taught us, because they are what will drive us forward. Also, yesterday, maybe it's a coincidence, my sister also gave birth. Another reason why we fight it's the intergenerational fight that we are pursuing. We want to make sure the fight keeps going on so that our kids can enjoy it. We want to make sure that we are driven to fight for their future. Otherwise, we will lose it all. And my grandmother can tell you exactly what that looks like, because you will see it in Lebanon. What happened in Lebanon? Well, corruption basically ran rampant. It's disgusting what ended up happening. They ended up trying to tax WhatsApp messages. Can you believe that? Disgusting. In fact, government incompetence is probably the thing that ended up leading to that September explosion in Lebanon, in Beirut. Disgusting. Someone just left a donation. Thank you very much. It's greatly appreciated. That's going straight to the cameras. I'm not even kidding. That's the cameras are very vital to the show. It actually it shortens my workload. It allows me to continue to do what I'm doing, but more efficiently. I do have a lot of plans for the future, but it's very, very important. I can't stress how important it is that you guys get onto alternative media platforms. Go find Ricardo and myself on Parler. Go find me on Rumble, on Gab, on Minds, on Subscribestar, most importantly, if you want to subscribe to the show. And go find the Daily Wire. Go subscribe to them. Go tell them, I like what you're doing. I like the fact that you guys are sticking it to the man in Hollywood. I like that you guys are making movies to support Gina Carano. I don't want to see people deplatformed. I don't want to see it. It's disgusting. It is disgusting. In fact, if they keep pushing us, then this is going to end up happening, isn't it?
But these mates weren't willing to explain. Did you realise there's a lockdown?
Can't wait for some of these snags. This is going to be good at.
On the day there.
That went international. That was really entertaining. I like it. It's just sort of exemplified exactly what the Australian spirit is, and it's beautiful. I mean, it makes me think about what the Anzacs were probably like in the Middle East. You know, they were probably really frustrated with what's going on. They were really frustrated with the conditions, but they got on with it. And they just told them to sod off. They told the Germans to sod off. And after all, I've said this many times, the Desert Fox, Rommel, said, if I were to take hell, I'd use the Australians to take it and the New Zealanders to hold it. Okay, someone's said that I've asked the question on Subscribestar. Will it be asked? Yes, I will be answering Subscribestar questions in the second hour. Why? Because a lot of the questions you guys have asked have actually talked about vaccines and all of that. Now, for those of you that are genuinely unsure about this topic, I'm going to film this second hour. I will be releasing it not tomorrow, but the day after for the weekend, so you can have a bit of on Sunday after the marches on Saturday. On Sunday, you will see the second hour, and I'll be able to tell you about all of this. The last thing I wanted to say on this show is that there is a big march tomorrow, a very big one. If you don't want this vacation, and you know what I mean by vacation, injection into the arm, if you do not want it, if you have questions about it, if you don't want the government to force it on you by withholding services from you, by withholding Centrelink and benefits for your kids and not going to school, if you don't want to, basically, as Ricardo would put it, if you don't want to die, then you need to wake the F up. You need to actually do some research on this. You need to look into these things yourself. You need to also empower people that are trying to get the news out, like Monica Smit, who also runs on donations. But I really want to thank you guys for the support. Thank you for your time. Get out to the marches. If you don't know about the marches, go to my Facebook. I've posted the photo of it. Go to other people like Rafael Fernandez who've been posting about this all week. You need to be at the march. It's now or never. The vaccines are here. They've landed in Sydney. In fact, I actually know where they are in Sydney. We need to protest this peacefully. Or else they'll tag me for for inciting violence. All right, I'm going to call it a wrap there, guys. Thank you very much for your time. It's been legendary. And I hope that you guys will be here next week. I will be going live again next week. I hope to have cameras eventually where I can flip between angles, so I can flip with the guest and then flip off with the guest, and also flip to sources rather than you looking at a 65-inch TV, which looks ridiculous. But you guys have a great day. Have a great weekend. And for those of you in Sydney, I will see you tomorrow. Ricardo will see you tomorrow. And we will be sticking it to the government and saying, we don't want this vacation. I will see you guys later.